Hi, you're listening to the Business Marketing Show, episode number 67. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Hi everyone, this is Ed Keay-Smith from the Business Marketing Show. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. I am very honoured to have a special guest. I can say in the studio today, because we're actually recording this in a studio, not typically just over Skype as we do. And we have Charlie Gunningham, who is the CEO of Business News in Western Australia. Now, Charlie has 3 decades of management experience, so that's a lot of experience. 15 years of running e-businesses, and he started up his own e-business called OzzyHome.com, which was very successful, and then he sold that to Rewa in Western Australia. And Charlie is also the co-founder of eGroup, which is a technology startup not-for-profit organisation where people turn up monthly to learn more about that type of business. I'm a member. It's
Which
fantastic.
is where we met, I think, wasn't it?
Initially, that's exactly where we met, yes. And Charlie also holds an MBA from UWA and has been a past 40 under 40 winner in Australia as well. So he's a bit of an underachiever, Charlie.
Many years ago when I was under 40.
So thank you, Charlie, for joining
Thanks, Ed.
the podcast.
Thanks for having me
It's
here.
great to have you. So we caught up a little while ago at a presentation down at the Blue Duck, and you gave a great talk there. And you were delving back into some past history of your father's when he was in the war, and you gave a great story about that.
Yep.
And that sort of led me into thinking, okay, there's a lot more to Charlie as well than what he's doing now. And a lot of people know you as the face of Business News.
Yep.
So I would like to delve back into how you actually got started when you finished high school. And
Right.
you come from the UK, correct?
Yes.
That's where you're originally from.
Yep.
So you went and did some study. So what did you go and study when you finished school?
So I went off to do an economics degree at Portsmouth Uni, and then I went and did a teacher training year at London Uni. So my final year of high school, I actually decided I was going to be a school teacher. So I go and do economics, which I loved studying economics. In the late 70s, early 80s, it was all sort of turning to monetarism, the Thatcher economic experiment, Reaganomics, it was all happening, right? So it felt like this stuff was live and happening. So I went off to do that. And then I ended up teaching just north of London in a comprehensive school in a little town called Bishop Stortford in East Hertfordshire.
Population?
Oh, I've no idea. Pretty small.
18?
It was a commuter belt town, so a lot of people sort of got the train straight down to London. But from there, I went to teach in Singapore. I taught in a big expat school. But I'd already been coming to Australia because I got a couple of older brothers, and one of them settled in Brisbane in 82 and got married. And I'd been coming out as a backpacking teenager. And as soon as I came to Australia, I went, what is this place? This is awesome. The sun is shining. They're winning the America's Cup. Yeah. They had the Commonwealth Games in Brisbane. It was like the sand, the surf. I just love the sort of positivity, the put down culture. I just fell in love with Australia and Australians, really. So I always knew, even before I went off to uni, that I wanted to come to Australia one day. So Singapore was supposed to be a little step on the road. Ended up playing a lot of cricket, playing in a band, loved being in Singapore, met my wife, fell in love, got married, and we ended up coming here in 1997, so this year's 20 years since I came to the beautiful city of Perth.
Wow. Yeah. And I bet it only seems like yesterday.
Well, Perth's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it does seem like yesterday.
20 years ago.
We didn't have kids. Now I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Yeah, we have roads now. We didn't have roads back then and big, tall skyscrapers. Wow.
It's changed a lot. Was it 2 million population, the city now? So now it's a pulsating city.
It is, right?
And we've just had, Justin Bieber come here last week, Adele, they all come here now. We've got the stadium being built, and you feel like, okay, this is quite a pulsating place.
Yes, they didn't come very often. My wife and I met when we were teenagers at the Perth Entertainment Centre, which sadly now has been knocked down. And once that period when that was closed, because they closed it way before they finished, decided to knock it down, everyone avoided Perth, didn't they? Like all the big acts, hardly anyone came here, or they'd only play at the outdoor arenas like Subiaco Oval or something, which I don't prefer. But.
Plus, my Asian friends used to come down and they'd go, Perth is dead. At 5 o'clock, everything shuts.
Yeah.
And, of course, we forget that because we live in the suburbs. Now, Perth City is pulsating at night.
Yes.
And living and working here in the city, for the first time I've actually worked in the city. I've usually been in the suburbs. At Business News, a 5-minute walk to the terrace. It's actually a really pulsating city. And I'm getting to know the city for the first time the last 3 or 4 years. And I love it, the small bars, the culture, everything else that's happening.
So you mentioned before that you played in a band, because I'm a drummer in the band as well, currently. And I've seen a photo of you. I found it not long after I saw you last speak. And describe the sort of music you played, and you did busking and all sorts of stuff, didn't you?
Yeah. Look, we were a rock and roll memory show band. So what was our gig? We called the Rough and Ready Roadshow, and in Singapore, the band had been going for 10 years before I was in it, and I was only in it for 5, and it carried on for another 5 afterwards.
Yep.
So we were a show band. We would cover songs, but the difference was we'd actually get dressed up as the Beatles and play a Beatles set and go, all right, so you doing? You want some rock and roll? And then all we'd do skiffle set, dressed up in sort of teddy boy outfits and go, all right, we'll do some rock and roll for you. Lovely.
Yeah.
So we actually had a show, right? And we'd get the Singaporeans up on stage playing a washboard and banging the spoons and all that. Or we'd do hippie music. Hey, man, we're just going to play some Doors for you. And often people would think, because we look totally different every set.
Yeah, right.
It's a different band, but it was the same band.
Same band, different outfit.
But back in 91, the first time I came to Perth in Christmas 91, busking was actually banned in Singapore, right? Wasn't allowed.
Right.
So we came down to Perth and did a little skiffle set, just the 4 of us. And just fell in love with Perth. People were just so open. They were giving us money. I couldn't believe it. You're playing on the street as a street performer. It really tightens you up as a performer.
It does.
If you're not on the money, people walk away.
Yeah, and there is no money. Right. That's exactly it.
And we made $800 each, the 4 of us, in a week, and it paid for our airfare. And we thought, what a nice place Perth is.
Yeah, that's it. That's great.
So I knew that I was going to come and live here one day.
Well, I got to say, anytime I look at you, I think of this guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats.
The Stray Cats.
Okay,
Stray Cat Strut.
I go, geez, you guys look sort of similar.
Did a bit.
His hair's a little bit taller than you. I'll post a picture of Brian Setzer. That's him in current night.
You're a bit of a fan, are you?
No, Stray Cats back in the 80s I was, absolutely. So anyway, that's us getting our musical stuff out of our system because, there's more to life than work, isn't there?
Absolutely.
You've got to have other stuff to do. So you came here, you settled. When did you start doing your MBA? Was that?
And when I came here. So I basically got a part-time gig teaching economics at Hale School.
Okay.
I bought a house, Lisa and I bought a house around the corner. Still live there, actually, in Woodlands. And I was doing my full-time MBA at UWA.
Yep.
So after I finished that, I was then back at Hale, full-time teaching and coaching cricket and having a great time. Wife was working in the city. And then it was 99. So I don't know if you remember 99, if you had a .com idea and a pulse, people threw money at you.
Yeah, very well.
So, and everyone was talking about the Y2K bug and the new millennium.
I so remember
that.
And it was just a complete crickets. Nothing happened.
Yeah. If you were a poor old mining company making money, people ignored you.
Yeah.
Or any traditional company making money, people ignored you. So we, I suppose, got caught up in all that. But we raised some money quite quickly with an angel fund. And then I set up AussieHome.com, which was actually the world's first map-based real estate website. So we used GIS technology right here in Perth because it's the centre of GIS technology because of the mining industry. Mm-hmm. And we were the first to put properties on maps on the internet. Now, it was really chuggy and slow and, security questions would come up when you tried to use the site and it was horrible. It was dial-up modems back in those days.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty shocking website. I don't know what we were thinking. But we were running around trying to sell real estate advertising to real estate agents who were putting their money in a wheelbarrow and pretty much wheeling it to the weekend papers, and that was how they spent their money for the previous 50 years.
And some of them still are.
And we were trying to disrupt a traditional industry, and that's really hard. And that's why, wind on now 15, 20 years, I love the whole tech startup scene, and I spend a lot of time in it because we've got to do something in this economy pretty quickly.
Definitely.
Because all these disruptors are coming in. We're really just at the beginning of the second industrial revolution.
Yeah.
We're at the end of the first one, and we're at the beginning of the second one. And these are massive changes, and we've only just started to see the beginning of it.
I agree. I just watched a fantastic video of Gary Vaynerchuk
right,
presenting at a company's conference that was called BioGuard. I'll put a link to it in the show notes for those who want to watch. And he talks about that very, very thing. And there are so many companies that are going to get caught with their pants down. They're just not ready for it. Like the taxi industry with Uber and all the other examples we could give that have had disruptions. So, you just going back to Ozzy Home for a minute. You ran that for several years, and then REWA, which for those who don't know, Real Estate Institute of WA. That's what REWA stands for. It used to be a client of mine several years ago. They bought that off you.
Yes.
And then you stayed working with them for 2 or 3 years. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people ask the question, when's a good time to sell a business? So when you came, you had success with Aussie Home, what made you decide to sell it?
It's funny because at the beginning, of course, you're selling your company as you're raising money, right? So you're selling pieces of your company. And when you've got no money, you're desperate to try and sell some shares and raise some money, as a lot of tech companies have to do, because it's not like opening up a cafe or a real estate agent. Often you just have to put a lot of money up front in order to get the idea out there to be usable. So you need to raise some money. And obviously we'd put our own money in and we'd scraped around, done what we can, used our savings. But we were doing something so different that we had to raise all this money. Now, when you make money, and it took us 5 years till we made money. So we were scrimping around. We had profitable months, unprofitable months. It really took 5 years until we had this pot of money left at the end of the year. I went, what should we do with this then? Oh, let's pay some dividends. And we were the biggest shareholders. We would actually ask our shareholders permission to pay them a dividend. Yes. And they said to us, very cool shareholders, as long as you don't need the money, by all means do. They gave us permission.
They're good shareholders to have.
And then every year we paid dividends for the next 5 years. And ultimately, we sold the company to REWA for a few reasons. We were 10 years old by then.
Right.
I was thinking, we're 7 people in the Netherlands, and then we had a programming house that we had a good association with in India, where we get a lot of our programming done. My head IT guy was from Delhi. How much longer can we really survive or thrive on our own? Secondly, I looked at rewa.com and I thought it really could be way better.
Yeah.
And realestate.com, meantime, owned by News Corporation, ASX listed company, had come in to the state, put boots on the ground, and within a few years had dominated and become number one.
Yep.
Then they were property.com at the time. They bought them up for 9 million, and then by then they put clear daylight between them and everyone else. And so the poor old real estate agents had gone from having a print monopoly to an online monopoly. The internet hadn't actually saved them at all. It just out of the frying pan into the fire. So I always thought rewa.com could do way better. It's owned by the agency. It's a not-for-profit. It's a member organisation. REWA as an organisation here is by far the most successful real estate institute in the country.
Yeah.
The other institutes who I've all met, fine, noble organisations though they are, have maybe 40 to 60% membership of the industry.
Okay.
Here it's 95%.
Yeah, that's huge.
Everyone's a member of REWA.
Yeah.
That gives rewa.com a lot of power. And they were actually keeping realestate.com honest. In other words, the prices that REA charged the agents here in WA was about half what they charged in Queensland. So it was actually holding, and I thought, holding a candle to them, I thought rewa.com could be better. So it would have been about 7 years ago to the day today. It was about March 2010.
No, okay.
I literally went and had a cup of coffee with the CEO, Anne Arnold, who I'd always gone on very well with. And the opportunity was, and it was amazing because the opportunity was just that, someone who'd been running rewa.com previously had left. And I knew they were looking for someone to run rewa.com. And I went along, not with the actual intention of selling the company, but just cheekily to ask, who's going to be running rewa.com? To which Anne could have said, none of your business. But Anne's a very smart operator, very cool. And she said, wonderfully honest, she said, there are not many people in WA who've run real estate portals. It's quite a specific skill. To which I heard myself saying, well, what about me? And then she went, really? How would that work? I said, I don't know. I've just said it. The words just came out of my mouth. But from that first conversation to deal done was 6 weeks.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's fast.
Signed off by REWA Council.
Yeah.
When she took the plan, I worked on it with the CFO, Neville, who's now the CEO. And I got on really well with Neville and Anne. I think that's important. But when we took the deal when they took the deal to REWA Council, it was apparently, less than 10 minutes discussion. Of course you should buy AussieHome.com and get Charlie and his team in to run REWA. Great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then together we can really take on real estate. Few reasons. Obviously, an exit is nice after 10 years of working hard and putting all your life and soul into it.
A lot of people want to try and do.
A share price for your shareholders, which was acceptable to them in terms of an exit opportunity. They've been paying dividends for 5 years, but now the ultimate exit. I wanted full-time jobs for all my staff, right? And Rewa honoured that, and in fact paid them more than I was paying them at Aussie Home.
Wow! Because
there were a lot of bonuses and incentives at Aussie Home on profit and revenue. And I wanted the clients to be able to keep using the Aussie Home system. And 7 years later, Ed, there's dozens of them still use the Aussie Home system.
Wow, okay. So it's still running. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it's still running. In fact, you still go to AussieHome.com today and the site's there. Now powered by Rewa listings, but the back end still works and powers all these real estate sites and stuff.
Okay, fantastic. So I think often that's a case of the elephant in the flea scenario comes to mind, that a lot of big companies now have trouble pivoting to something new. They're too slow to move. Yeah. How do you see a lot of that with what you deal with here at Business News? A lot of bigger corporations really having trouble turning the boat.
Yeah. Well, hence that story that I told about turning the convoy around. Remember, in the little back streets just north of Hampshire during the Second World War, and it is difficult to turn it around, and often managers and leaders get so fixated on where they're going that they just want to keep pushing through, even if they have a pretty strong inkling they're going in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
But I'm hearing less of that now, and most people now are much more receptive to technology, worried about disruption. And I think you should be at your most worried when you're most comfortable. So when you're making your most money in a nice little comfortable situation, that's when you get lazy and fat.
Yes.
And that's what happened to newspapers.
Yep.
That's what happened to the taxi industry. That's what's happening to lots of other industries. And I think you should be at your most worried, paradoxically, when you're making the most money in a nice, comfortable industry. That's when you should actually be going, who could destroy us?
Yeah.
Because profits are a signal, right? Profits are a signal to other entrepreneurs who want to come in and grab. I'm seeing more and more people. This is what's coming up in the conversation. They're having digital people now in the C-suite. They're having digital people now on boards. And they've got to, because this has got to be the future.
Yeah, and so look, the conversation we have as a marketing agency is a lot of the companies that come to us, and it still surprises me, but it shouldn't after 14 years of being in the game, is that they haven't really put a lot of thought behind what their strategy is going to be moving forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of them get paranoid about what they're doing and how many social media platforms they've got to be on and various things like that, and they haven't had any conversation, but they're all sort of racing, trying to get to the line now. Oh my God, what's going on? So
but they've got to talk about strategy.
Yes.
Which road are they going down?
Yeah.
Don't worry about the tools. Yeah?
Exactly.
Which car we jump in.
Exactly.
Which road are we heading down?
That's it. They all say we've got to be on all the social medias. No, you necessarily don't have to be on all of them. You've got to be on the right one.
The Uber is an interesting example, because a lot of people say, change is so fast these days. It's just so fast. I disagree. Actually, the biggest changes are slow. And the taxi industry here, I'm not criticizing them specifically, let's use an example. They could have seen Uber coming, because I think Perth was the 70th city that Uber had entered.
Like that.
I mean, they'd been in many before, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't as if it wasn't going to happen. And it wasn't as if Uber didn't know the playbook. They knew the playbook. They know how to enter these new cities.
Exactly.
They put two guys in Space Cubed. I remember seeing them.
Yeah.
One on demand, one on supply.
Yep.
Different T-shirts, chugging away in the corner of a co-working space.
I remember that.
And anyone seeing that would have thought, these guys are jokes. Well, now they've got a big office in Subiaco. They've got 20% of the taxi industry, and they're growing very fast, right?
Yeah.
But that didn't come from nowhere. That could have been seen for years.
Yes.
And the incumbents could easily have changed their ways to defend themselves against that attack, in the same way the newspaper industry could have seen the internet coming rather than just poo-poo it, right? And we know our local newspapers here have done exactly that. One of the reasons I love being at Business News, and what got me here from Rewa, because when I went to Rewa, I thought I'd be there 10 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, fantastic, sold my company, run Rewa.com, brilliant. But when the owner of Business News, Elton Swartz, came to me in 2012 and was basically coming some advice, me and Mark Pannell, who you met a minute ago, our head of content, and I've known Mark for years, actually wrote the very first story on Ozzy Home when he was at the West.
Okay.
They came to me with some advice around how do you digitize a company like Business News, paywall strategy, how do you make media work in a digital age? But they had some really well thought out ideas and strategies. Mm-hmm. And I just got excited about the project so much so I said, I want to come and join.
Yes.
I want to be part of it.
Yeah. I think Business News is a great example of a business that pivoted to adapt to the digital age that was using traditional means of print.
It had a paper with a really crappy website. I mean, seriously. And I was a subscriber for 10 years. I didn't go on the website very often. Now the website and the emails are amazing.
Yeah.
And then we also have a paper. But
Yes.
we've actually paradoxically improved. It's gone full gloss magazine
Yeah,
style.
it's awesome.
And fortnightly. So, we've flipped it. And what they've done is they threw a hand grenade into a business model and saying, we're starting again, almost like a startup. And I went, that's exciting. Because if we don't get media to work in a digital age, journalism disappears.
Yeah.
And if journalism disappears, where are we going to get our information from in the future? It's just going to be press releases and PR companies spinning the hell out of everything.
Yeah.
And that, to me, in an era of Trump and fake news and alternative facts is a very worrying future scenario. And it's all going to happen in the next 5 years. If media cannot find a way forward, a business model that works, they'll be gone.
I agree. And we're seeing it already. We're seeing it happening. So, it's. I think with Business News, the people who are. How many subscribers are on Business News?
So we have about 2,500 companies, and it's about 5,500 people pay for our content.
Okay.
And our renewal rates, I'm very excited to say, are the highest they've ever been. So the percentage of which they renew on an annual basis or monthly or whatever is the highest it's ever been.
Fantastic.
Which is great. Getting new ones on is as hard as ever, and the local economy has been tough. But that tells me that our strategy is working. Yeah. Also, when you look at some of our hero stats like traffic to our website, unique visitors, 160,000 a month, that has actually gone up by a factor of 5 in the last 4 years since we put our paywall up.
Yes.
So we put our paywall up, but our traffic has gone up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And occasionally you drop the paywall like you did the other day for this
It's
story.
actually dropped this week.
Yeah.
So about twice a year we drop it.
Yeah.
So you think you just have to, open the boot, let people in, have a look under the cover and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And then slam it down
and
the
then
hands.
slam it down again. But we've got to, if we're creating content and we're not going to give it all away for free. We give a lot for free.
Yes.
50,000 people get our email summaries twice a day. And so 50,000 people are getting it for free twice a day. 5,000 are paying, right?
Yeah.
So 90% of people are getting our content for free. And then they can register for the website and actually get 7 articles a month for free.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't really get them into the BNIQ search engine, but which is what we really do.
Yeah.
It's like a Bloomberg database. That's really what we sell now.
Yeah.
And then news is wrapped around it. But if we make really good quality content that business people need to make decisions and they find that valuable, those business people will still pay for it. If they still pay for it, we'll survive.
Absolutely.
If not, we'll be gone.
I had this conversation in a workshop I was giving yesterday. I was saying, people, do not be afraid to give away awesome content. So many people are holding it back in fear that they're losing out. They have a really scarcity mentality. And a lot of the guys I follow on all sorts of different, whether they're digital marketers or whether they're musicians, it doesn't matter. The ones that do the best are the ones that give value.
Yeah.
And then when they do ask for a sale or for someone to sign up for a membership, people have experienced that fantastic value, and then they do it much more easily than just trying to hit them up for something straight away. So that's
absolutely right. And we followed like the Financial Times, New York Times. New York Times now has 800,000 subscribers.
Yeah, it's
they have
killing
a bigger readership than ever.
Yeah.
Financial Times as well, over 100,000, 120,000 paying subscribers, probably more by now. That was a 2015 stat. But yes, they do a lot of content for free because you've got to be discovered out there. So we do a lot of the social media. We do a lot of events. We do a podcast ourselves as well called Mark My Words. So do have a look at that.
Yes.
Business News
We'll put
podcast.
a link in the show notes there.
And we do a lot of videos on YouTube. And as I say, we allow people to for free, register our website and have a certain amount of content for free. But obviously the content and the data is our product. We can't give it all for free. If we give it all for free, I don't know how to make a living out of that.
No.
If we just relied on advertising, we'd be writing content for our advertisers, not our readers.
Yeah.
Now, other media have gone down that road, and that's a really tough road to follow because all you're doing is your CPMs, cost per thousand views, is coming down and down and down. It used to be $80 and it's $20. Now it's a few cents. That is a road to ruin, trying to chase that. Then you end up with clickbait, sensationalist headlines, just try and grab people to your website and hold them.
And not authentic content, and because you're writing the content based on the advertisers.
I think you give up what you're about.
Yeah.
And I'm really saddened by that.
You saw the one of the guys we've had on the podcast before, who's become a good mate, John Cadogan from autoexpert.com.au. He's completely irreverent, and like he serves no auto manufacturer. Like if there's someone doing something dodgy, he's going to say it, and he gets paid for providing a service for people who want to buy new cars, and he gets some discounts from dealers and stuff like that. So, he's gone down the path where his model is not based on pleasing advertisers, which I think is a wise thing to do.
Now we have advertising and we have sponsorship, and then as well, and we have events, tickets to events and stuff, and nominees. We just had our big 40 under 40 the other night. But our core and now becoming almost our largest income source is subscriptions income.
Yes.
From those 5,000 paying business people, God bless them. Now, there are, in fact, 80,000 businesses in Perth. I'm sure a lot of them listen to this podcast. 80,000 businesses in Perth that employ people. We only have 2,500 of those actually pay for our content. If I could just lift that to 5,000 businesses paying to be a business news subscriber, I believe it's going to help them do business and understand the world and the local economy. That is going to revolutionize this business.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's my goal.
Now we're approaching the end of the time we've got together, and my wife said, my wife Lois from careerwisdom.com.au, I've got to give her a plug, she's my wife, said, ask Charlie this question. There was one she wanted to know. And this goes back to your teaching experience.
Yep.
So how do you find that your teaching experience has helped you with business leadership? Because you're in the business leadership role right now. You're demonstrating that, doing what you're doing at Business News. So how do you find that has helped you?
Very much so. And I didn't realize until I got into business how much fun running a business is. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Coming to work every day is different. Whereas I found teaching was a little bit samey. And certainly when I'm teaching at schools that I was teaching at, a cardboard cutout could have been teaching, and they're still going to go to UWA and do BCom, So it was sort of the challenge had gone from it, even though I was at a great school. I found that being able to communicate and persuade is really important. I think teachers are really good at that. I think teachers are really good also at time management. Even on my MBA, people said to me, God, you're well organized. But if you're a teacher, you have to be organized at 8:55 a.m. Bam, prepared. Yeah. And you have to be alive to what's happening in the classroom, because they can go off in one direction. One kid's not concentrating. Another guy's done this. You have to be on the money. And you have to be able to also communicate publicly. The other day I had to speak in front of 600 people at 40 under 40. I find that no problem at all. But a lot of people find that a real issue. And
Most
they say,
people.
Wow, you're good on stage. You really own the stage. You can really speak well. I think, I did 13 years of teaching. You're on the stage all the time. Yeah. And I think key ingredient of business leadership is to be able to communicate.
Yes.
And persuade and explain. Yeah. And tell stories. The best leaders, I think, tell stories. If your listeners haven't seen Steve Jobs' commencement address, that he did in 2005 at Stanford, just go and YouTube it, right? Yeah. It is 3 stories, each one 5 minutes, and it's spellbinding. Yes. 15 minutes total, and it's just stories. And the best communicators tell stories. Right?
Absolutely. I agree.
And I'm always trying to, that's why I started that Blue Duck thing with a story. Yeah. Right? And then finished with it. Yes. Right? And then told some other stories along the way. Yeah. That's what, and then so many other people, it's like death by PowerPoint, it's bullet points. You're going, you just want to stick forks in your eyes. Really? This guy's terrible. I've sat through so many of those. Yeah. I always start, when I do my workshops on digital marketing, I always tell my Oprah Winfrey story and how we ended up dealing with Oprah Winfrey and selling her. This is back, really?
Remember if you remember when the Secret DVD came out. Right. This is 2006. I was involved in marketing that in Australia, and Oprah Winfrey found out about it, and she ordered. It wasn't her. Harpo Studios ordered 30 copies of the DVD from us, and we sent it to there. And then she had the people who were on the Secret DVD come on the show. Right. And at the time we were advertising and doing, spending about $1,500 a day on Google AdWords. This is back in 2006, which was a lot of money on a daily basis even back then. And as soon as we found out that because we just shipped them, we thought something's going on here. And then she came on and said they were coming on the show. We thought we've got to really increase our budget availability for Google AdWords spend for that
You're
week.
about to go meltdown.
And it did.
Mode.
It did. At the end of it all, we sold 80,000 copies of the DVD. And we were spending $15,000 a day.
15,000 now. Okay.
15,000 from 1,500 to 15,000, roughly, give or take. And we saw it happen live in front of us after she came on the show and talked about it. It was like whoosh, the Oprah effect. And it was fascinating to see it all play out. So, but I tell that story because people say, do you want to hear my Oprah Winfrey story? And they go, yeah. So anyway, fantastic. So Charlie, look, it's been fantastic having you on the podcast. Thanks for taking the time. It has been a bit of a novelty for me because typically I'm doing this over Skype with people, but we're in the room looking at each other. Good to be face-to-face. It's great to be face-to-face. I've done a few face-to-face, but typically they're in another part of the country or the world, so it makes it harder to pull that off. So thank you again. And I'm going to shake your hand. I'm doing a live handshake. Thanks, mate.
What about that?
Fantastic.
Great.
And anyone who wants to contact you, what's the best way to get in touch with Charlie?
Yeah, look, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Chaz, C-H-A-Z Gunningham, at Chaz Gunningham.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn. Link me up, Charlie Gunningham.
Yep.
Find me on businessnews.com.au. Go and subscribe. A lot of it's free. I hope you like it. See what we're doing. And then love to hear feedback on how things are going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we also love to hear really cool West Australian companies doing great things. I'm sure this podcast goes way beyond WA, but for WA business listeners to this, we love you to bring us our great stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So those who are listening, catch up, talk to Charlie, and you never know, you might be appearing in the next
edition of Business News.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Fantastic, Ed.
Cheers. You've been listening to the Business Marketing Show. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher.